Hello, friends. This is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News today, August 27, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday edition of Weaponized News. No Ruckus today. Ruckus is going to fill in host for me tomorrow, and so look forward to that. All right, what do we got in the news today? The falling out continues with Canada. Trump signs executive order renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America. They're playing off against each other, working behind the scenes. That's what Snow says. Him and Ford. And that's how all these governments do, right? Get the population stirred up. They got me hating Ontario and hating Snow when it's actually the corrupt government just running racketeering operations against the people. That's what's really going on here. The ins and outs of the Iran war on day 180 now. We'll cover all of the developments there as more reports are coming out. We're running out of weapons. I don't know how it can be. We throw $1 trillion. I guess we bomb the hell out of a lot of stuff. Or maybe this is just all to create artificial scarcity to increase the price of these weapons. That may also be a factor. It's being reported now the Pentagon is rolling out troll armies. So Aardvark Land has giant troll armies on the internet. The Pentagon. Is there even anybody real on the internet? Is it all just intelligence bot farm trolls? It's starting to look that way, honestly. Dead internet theory seems to be pretty right on the money. We got the fallout. They arrested this dude in D.C. driving around town with a guillotine in the back of his truck. We'll take a look at that crazy story. Another crazy story. The ICE Nazi dude, Greg Bavino. I don't think he's a Nazi, but he did go for that look, right? Intentionally. He says the government's out to get him now. We'll take a look at that story in an interview that he did with Tucker Carlson. So he says the government's out to get him now. Take a look at that. Bunch of economic news. As per usual, a few Epstein developments. A bunch of geopolitical news. As per usual, the Russia-Ukraine war. The leveling of Lebanon continues, and the genocide in Gaza continues, and the drug war here now continues as well. We have reporting about all that and much more on this Thursday edition of Weaponized News. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button while we're at it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I see a few more people coming online. Let's just check. Shout out to Mac and Ruckus on the YouTube and Strong on the Rumble. Thank you for joining us today. All right, let's get to this day in history. We didn't have that much, honestly, this day in history. On this day of August 27th, we go back to the year 1776. The British defeat the Americans in the Battle of Long Island. 1789, on this day, French National Assembly issues the, quote, Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. 1918, on this day, we saw the 19th and deadliest wave in the United States. Remember these classic images from the 1918. Wear a mask or go to jail. And they even have one with a cat, right? They have a cat wearing a mask. It's just so freaking ridiculous. I'm sure her mask is stop the spread there. On this day, 1955, on this day in 1955, Guinness Book of World Records is first published on this day, 1955. And yeah, that's where we're going to shift to on this day in our civil liberties history. We go back to the year 1952. U.S. Attorney in Cleveland asks courts okay to burn 2 books. The U.S. Attorney in Cleveland, Ohio, said on this day that he would seek court approval to burn 2 French novels, which he regarded as too obscene for public consumption. The 2 novels imported from London were The Black Mistress and Where They Breed, the latter rather ironically, given the notorious Nazi practice of book burning, involved a story about life under Hitler in Germany during World War II. There were a number of shocking incidences where U.S. officials burned books in the post-World War II years with full knowledge of the example of Nazi Germany. On March 31st, 1950, the federal government seized and burned 3,000 copies of Scientific American because it alleged published the, quote, secret of the atomic bomb. Officials in Newark, New Jersey, burned allegedly lewd books and magazines on March 7, 1953. U.S. officials on August 23, 1956, seized and burned all the materials of the controversial psychiatrist Wilhelm Reich, including all of his scientific papers. On November 10, 1973, school officials in North Dakota burned copies of Kurt Vonnegut's acclaimed novel Slaughterhouse-Five. And now all the AI companies are burning books, essentially, right? They're buying up all these rare books, as we continue to report, scanning them in for their AI LLM database training, and then disposing of said books. All right, we had another celebrity death, tragically enough. Peter Cullen, the legendary voice of Optimus Prime in Disney's Eeyore, is dead at the age of 85 years old. Rest in peace there, Peter Cullen. All right, and then here's our segue. Here's our segue to the news. If you didn't already know, ultra Zionist, evangelical Christian Zionist, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson wants to remind you that siding with Aardvark land is America's biblical calling. Well, that's true. Then it's just not true. But here's our segue to the news. It's just disgusting. These people are freaking disgusting.
Israel is a critical ally of ours, and I think most people understand the necessity of this funding. They're fighting for their very existence. They're the only stable democracy in the Middle East. I mean, of course, for those of us who are believers, it's a biblical admonition to stand with Israel. We will, and they will prevail as long as they're with them. And this is an important, very important symbolic gesture and a very important replenishment of their stockpiles, for example, of the Iron Dome. The reason they shot down all those drones and missiles in the last attack by Iran is because we assisted with that. I think the American people understand the importance.
Oh, yeah, it's our biblical duty to stand with the House of Rothschild and UK intelligence. Yeah, okay. It's just so freaking tiresome and painful here now. Trump earlier today trying to start a trade war. Should we bomb Canada next? I don't know. Maybe. Snow's been mouthing off on the internet.
Why are you so focused on doing things like this towards America's allies instead of doing things that target adversaries?
The Canadian officials have treated us very badly. They're nasty people. They charge our farmers 400% tariffs. They've been doing it for a long time. And I had them figured out in my first term, and I did some pretty strong things and had it getting pretty good. And then the election was rigged, and now I'm coming back and doing it the way it, and finishing the job. But they treat us very badly. Canada treats us very badly. I would say that of all countries, as you know, we have President Xi.
Canada treats us very badly. How's the audio? I think the audio is okay. Ruckus said loud clip. Yeah. Apologies. I don't have a soundboard. Not much I can do about equalizing the sound. Some of these clips that people post are, not in sync with the same level of audio. Apologies for that. There you go. From the White House.
Changing the name of Lake Ontario, effective immediately, to Lake America. We lose on average over the last 15 years $60 billion a year carrying Canada, so we just can't do it anymore. We love the people of Canada. I don't think their representatives do.
They want Mike Johnson in the chat there. Bardo on the Rumble. Go jump in the lake. Go jump in Lake America. Here it is. These are memes now coming up. They've already officially, who's it? The U.S. Geological, whatever it is, has already officially renamed it, we're told. It's just so ridiculous. Again, distraction away from our collapsing economy, sky-high inflation, record unemployment, never-ending illegal foreign wars of aggression, aardvark land taking over our military or merging with us. Yeah, look up there. Look up north. Those damn Canadians. It's just all so ridiculous now, isn't it? White House says no U.S.-Iran talks underway. All options remain on the table. The United States and Iran are not currently holding talks aimed at ending the U.S.-Iran war, as Washington focuses on increasing economic pressure on Tehran. White House Press Secretary Bobblehead Leavitt said in an interview with Fox News earlier today, she added that all options remain on the table. What President Trump's number one goal has been and always and will always be is to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon, we know. And also the most simplistic form of mind control is repetition. I'm sorry, White House, your claims of Iranian nuclear program have been debunked by your own government. So F off with your propaganda and lies already. You know what I mean? It's just, but it continues here now. She went on to say, yeah, we know Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon, period. And so we've had Operation Epstein Fury to destroy their military, Epic Fury to destroy their military. Now we have Operation Economic Outcast, Operation Epstein Outcast, Economic Outcast, to destroy their economy, Leavitt told Fox and Friends program. No negotiations are happening right now, and this will continue until the president feels that maybe they come to the table in a meaningful way. We have not seen that yet, she said. He, of course, continues to retain all options on the table, and the naval blockade continues to be in effect as well. We're in a Persian standoff there in the Strait of Hormuz, essentially, in the Iran war on day 180. Iran has completely rejected Donald Trump's demand to abandon the June MOU and open the Strait of Hormuz, stating that any reopening must follow the June framework, including $300 billion in war reparations, release of frozen funds, and full sanctions relief. Iran says the same thing every time, too. Trump says they can never have a nuclear weapon. Iran says these are our demands. It's the same freaking routine. It's pretty damn tiresome here now on day 180 of the Iran war. And it just goes to show the MOU, ceasefire, peace deal, it don't mean shit. right? That's what Trump has proven here now. Trump is refusing to return to the June agreement and is instead betting that tighter economic pressure will force Iran to make concessions. But Iran has already declared that America's new sanctions will be fruitless and is watching Washington sink deeper into the war it cannot win. Pakistan, Oman, and Qatar have tried to mediate, but talks have made little progress. And if it ever starts making progress, Aardvarkland whacks the negotiators. So there you have it. I added that part to this report. But that's the trend that we've been noticing over before the Iran war even. Any negotiations of peace, whack negotiators, they're terrorists, continue the genocide. That's the program here now, isn't it? Ghalibaf, Iranian parliamentary speaker, had this to say in regards to the sanctions to Treasury Secretary Bitchute. Bitchute said, as the Iranian people struggle to afford basic necessities, the corrupt regime continues to squander enormous sums abroad. Instead of funneling billions of dollars to its terrorist proxies, the regime should spend that money for its people, because we care about the liberation of the Iranian people by sanctioning them into poverty, famine, and starvation. Makes sense, right? Sure it does. Ghalibaf's reply to this, instead of funneling billions to its terrorist proxy, Aardvarkland, and 750 bases, this failing empire could spend that cash on its own people. But nah, that'd make too much sense for this regime. Scotty, man, your credibility's on the line. Do something. And he cites this failing New York Times article. Bitchute faces credibility test in quest to tame markets. Right there. Strong rhetoric going back and forth. Today, once again, White House weighs reviving 19th century prize courts to hijack Iranian oil tankers. The U.S. Department of Justice, covering up Epstein files, not part of this report, but needs to be pointed out. The U.S. Department of Justice is considering reviving the long dormant U.S. Civil War era, quote, prize court system to seize Iranian oil tankers and cargoes, according to a report out of Bloomberg, citing three sources familiar with the matter. Our national security interests may require the United States military to seize vessels or cargo supporting the enemy during military conflict, stated Aaron Ritz, a Houston-based U.S. attorney partnering with the Department of Justice. We have legalized piracy, you see. We're the good guys. The proposal would revive a maritime legal framework last used during World War II, allowing authorities to seize sanctioned Iranian vessels and cargoes more quickly than under existing civil forfeiture procedures. Government does love stealing. What was that plaque on Ron Paul's desk? Said, don't steal. The government hates competition. Yeah. However, the legal concept may be hard to apply, as there are U.S. courts familiar with the prize court's legal framework, which are largely gone unused since the Spanish-American War of 1898. There really is a historical area of law that is not tested in modern times, said Allison Leswick, an attorney at Holland and Knight, who specializes in the maritime industry. Great strides have been made in international law. Well, we don't care about international law. We sanction the hell out of the ICC. We may drone them later. You know what I mean? Great strides have been made in international law and the law of war since the late 1800s. And all of that is going to come into play when we're actually looking at proceedings involving a vessel that is potentially seized under Prize Act authority. Under the plan, proceeds from seized oil could be transferred to the U.S. Treasury to help offset the cost of the U.S. war on Iran, while the legal mechanism could also strengthen Washington's blockade of the Islamic Republic. And they go on a little bit more. They're talking about it. Who knows? They'll probably try to do it. And I don't even know why they care. Just go kill everybody. I mean, that's what they do anyway. Why do you even care about all this? Is it legal? Give me a break. Like seriously, give me a freaking break. Like they care if it's legal. Iran's foreign minister Odysee met with Qatar's prime minister in Tehran earlier today, called the newest wave of U.S. sanctions an act of state and economic terrorism yesterday in a letter to the UN Security Council. Odysee accused the United States of seeking to, quote, cut Iran's lawful economic ties and other states after failing to achieve its objectives through war or persuade other countries to join its campaign. These sanctions deliberately harm civilians by restricting access to food, medicine, medical equipment, energy, and other essentials, violating rights, including the rights to life, health, food, and an adequate standard of living, he wrote in the letter to the UN. Kind of hard to argue with all that, but hey, we're the big dogs with the world's reserve currency, and the dollar has been weaponized against you and much of the rest of the world, for that matter. Iran has been unable to import enough petrol to offset reduced domestic production as a result of the U.S. naval blockade. Pakistan says it is not bound by U.S. sanctions on Iran and rejects reports that Army chief visited Tehran as Trump's envoy. At a press conference in Islamabad earlier today, foreign minister spokesperson from Pakistan and Arab said Pakistan does not believe Washington's unilateral sanctions on Tehran adhere to international law and that issues should be resolved through dialogue. At the same conference, he rejected reports that its army chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, traveled to Iran earlier this week on Trump's behalf, calling the claims misleading and factually incorrect. He said the visit was undertaken purely in the context and backdrop of Pakistan's ongoing role as a mediator. And they're asking for a bunch of money too. They're always trying to get some money out of us. They're Pakistan. I believe they're doing a lot of shipping export out the back door through Pakistan via Iran via Pakistan out the back door. Have we spent up to 65% of our U.S. Patriot missiles stocks? That's what the reports coming out are saying. U.S. Patriot missile stocks in Europe are beyond critical due to the Iran war. The U.S. military faces a, quote, beyond critical shortage of advanced missile interceptors in Europe, driven largely by the war with Iran, according to a U.S. defense official in Europe and NATO official, raising concerns about NATO's vulnerability to a Russian attack. Patriot interceptors, the system capable of downing Russia's high-speed ballistic missiles, are the sharpest shortfall. Both officials who spoke anonymously said inventories among America and NATO forces are low in a sustained Russian ballistic attack on a headquarters or power plant, the U.S. official said NATO could find itself as exposed as Patriot-starved Ukraine, forced to, quote, take punch after punch in the mouth. The war has consumed 65% of American Patriots, roughly 1,500 of 2,330 interceptors, according to CSIS. That's this. Who the heck are? I saw those guys anyway. Stocks were moved from Europe to the Middle East, where U.S. and Gulf forces have fired heavily against Iranian drones and missiles. Transfers to Ukraine contributed, though analysts describe those as planned and measured, with the Iran conflict at the tipping point. The Pentagon disputes the account. Spokesman, propagandist from the Pentagon, Sean Purnell, called shortage claims false, saying the U.S. has everything required to strike at the president's choosing. NATO spokesman Colonel Martin O'Donnell said it is simply not the case. The Patriot numbers are beyond critical. Yeah. They don't want to own up to it. There's a big report out of Associated Press making these claims. Iranian Security Council Secretary Razazi, this dude, right? This dude came back out of retirement, basically, for the Iran war. This dude, he's always all pissed off. He said, an end to the wars across various parts of West Asia, particularly in Lebanon, the withdrawal of aardvark land from occupied Lebanese territories, and an end to the war in Gaza are among the conditions Iran has put forward for an agreement with the United States. They've been saying that same thing the entire time, but he said it one more time today. He went on to say the claim that there was a plot against Trump's son is nothing but a major lie devised by Malay Bibi Netanyahu to deceive and frighten the United States president. They would never do that. They just threatened they were going to nuke us, but they wouldn't threaten Trump's son, would they? Netanyahu, by spreading false reports about an Iranian plot to assassinate Trump, has terrified him and disturbed his decision-making. If we make a decision, nothing will prevent us from carrying it out. But these reports are simply Netanyahu's nonsense. He said Iran will send Netanyahu to hell. He's always all pissed off, right? That's like his thing, being the pissed off Iranian dude. Here you go from MS Now. U.S. Navy sailor who jumped off USS Abraham Lincoln in suicide attempt faces disciplinary charges. Let's watch this report.
Exclusive new MS Now reporting on the U.S. Navy sailor who jumped from the USS Lincoln in what his wife says was an attempt to die by suicide after months at sea. His wife revealing to MS Now that the Navy is punishing her husband for the episode, which happened on August 3rd. She spoke to MS Now on the condition of anonymity to protect her privacy. According to the charging documents reviewed by MS Now, the sailor is accused of faking illness or injury to avoid duty and of absence without leave. A commanding officer will decide his punishment, and his pay could be docked by half. His wife tells MS Now the Navy is, quote, insane, adding, quote, another huge stressor for anyone with mental health issues. Joining us now, MS Now Pentagon reporter Priya Shrathur. She co-authored this exclusive reporting. I can't get angry enough about this. Someone is hurting badly enough that they are willing to jump into hostile waters off of a carrier. And then this is how they are treated, like their state of well-being is just a joke. And
maybe they can get on some psychedelics. The VA's rolling those out, right? Yeah, it is quite horrific, but yeah, it's all been denied by the Pentagon. So morale is at all-time highs. Nothing to worry about there. Iranian Supreme Leader lays out 8 strategies for the next phase of confrontation, according to Fars News. We're told he's gay, he's blowing up, he's badly disfigured on the face. Who knows? You know what I mean? But this is what he put out in the past 24 hours. This was translated by RT into English. Vigilant presence minus disunity. Avoid damaging unity and coherence in criticism. Active and vigilant presence in the field. Avoiding division, political disputes, and highlighting social differences. Continuing trust in caring officials in all 3 branches of government. Avoiding cruelty toward individuals is in criticism. Insisting on unity and sacred unity at all levels and in all areas. And that's translated into English. I'm sure it sounds different in his language here. I don't even know, what is it, Persian? Here's how it looked. You can see right there, it looked like that. And then, of course, they translated it into English anyhow. I don't know how, because a lot is lost in translation. So anyhow, that was his latest message to the Iranian people. Thankfully here, they're using the Pentagon to go ahead and troll us on the internet. We do appreciate your efforts out there, Pentagon. Trump Pentagon secretly amasses troll army as report exposes scandal of the century. I don't know if it's quite scandal of the century. That's a headline out of Raw story. They are kind of sensational all the time. They do have TES, I believe, but anyhow, let's see here. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has quietly assembled an online army of MAGA clownfluencers. Oh, it says influencers, excuse me. Including some of whom work for the Pentagon or have nearly landed jobs there, according to a new report. Let's go to that new report out of the Bulwark. Pete Hegseth is building a Pentagon troll army. The War Secretary's MAGA clownfluencer allies aren't merely cheering him on. Some work for him. Oh, no, there's nothing dishonest about that at all. We're draining the swamp, bro. The right-wing social media Doge booster known as Data Republican, we covered that, is a Fed working for the Pentagon or the Department of War, has over the last 2 months waded deeper and deeper into hot button political issues, from Candace Owens to the 6 Democrat lawmakers who encouraged troops not to follow unlawful orders. Data Republican, the nom de web of Utah mom Jessica Pounds, has been active on X, venturing far beyond the number crunching work she did as an early Elon Musk booster. What Pounds didn't reveal as she grew her social media presence was that she was secretly working for the Department of War. Since July, Pound has been a temporary special government employee for the Pentagon. Pound's secret job spilled out into the open this week after she egregiously accused Sarah B. Rogers, the State Department Undersecretary for Public Diplomacy of trying to entrap her for treason amid the flap. And ex-user critical of Pounds revealed that she worked for the War Department. The Pentagon later confirmed that she does work as a special government employee, but refused to explain exactly what job she has with the Department of War. Pound's secret work for the Pentagon calls into question the motivations of several of her posts, such as when she took a jab at then Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, a Hegseth nemesis. It also raises serious questions about Secretary Pete Hegseth's cozy relationship with outspoken conservative social media clownfluencers and whether it breaches serious ethical norms. Hegseth has gone to great lengths to limit and muzzle many members of the traditional Pentagon press corps, but secretly employing a shadowy, rabidly online personality for the apparent purpose of going after your enemies is a remarkable illustration of the kind of steps Hegseth appears willing to take to fight political wars. Amazing. Amazing. So yeah, you may just be arguing with feds. That's probably who you are arguing with on the internet. That's who I'm arguing with, a bunch of feds. A bunch of clowns. You're organized criminals. You're scum. Oh, but the Justice Department's still covering up Epstein files. They busted a bunch of gangs, a bunch of gang members today. 81 members of a violent gang in Puerto Rico charged with drug trafficking and firearms violations. They announced a big bust here today at the Department of Justice, but they're still covering up Epstein files. Taking Back West. They busted these guys. These 81 defendants are alleged drug traffickers of Los Baja Dio, also known as LBD, who maintained a steady supply of highly addictive and potentially lethal substances that endangered the community, fueled addiction, and exposed entire public housing projects in Mayagüez and nearby neighborhoods to violence and chaos. Todd Blanche, head cover-upper of Epstein, said. During this investigation, law enforcement seized 21 firearms. It is estimated that during the span of the conspiracy, but we're told there is no such thing as conspiracy, even though every other indictment by the Justice Department is for conspiracy. This drug trafficking organization was responsible for distribution of at least 340 kilograms of fentanyl or fentanyl-laced narcotics. That's a hell of a lot of fentanyl, right? And at least 2,200 kilograms of cocaine and other drugs, generating over $49 million in proceeds. Let this be a warning to those that are terrorizing our communities. Our Homeland Security Task Force around the country are unified to end the presence of criminal cartels, foreign gangs, and transnational criminal organizations throughout the United States. They're trying to monopolize the drug trade there at the Department of Justice, as per usual, taking out competition. The Trump administration has officially paused processing of immigrant visas, which allow recipients to move permanently to the United States to train visa officers on new guidance, ensuring that applicants have enough financial means to support themselves after they arrive in America, according to the Wall Street Journal. ICE arrests increased to nearly 50,000 in July. the highest monthly total of President Trump's second term. We're still not getting our mass deportations. Arrest doesn't even mean deportation here now, does it? And they're trying to pump up the numbers. It's too late, bro. You guys lost. You lied. You're going to lose the midterms. You deserve to lose, honestly. It's a freaking joke and pisses me off to no end. U.S. Capitol Police say this was what yesterday they posted, or this was 2 days ago. I had this, but I just missed it, and we had that interview with John Gold yesterday. So for the sake of time, I skipped the story, but a bizarre story. U.S. Capitol Police say this afternoon our officers seized a guillotine, which they spotted in the bed of a pickup truck along the 100 block of East Capitol Street. And there's images of said guillotine here. Let's take a look. Let's do a bigger look there. Can blow it up on the X. There you go. Dude driving around DC with a guillotine in his trunk. There it is. Or not even in his truck, not his trunk, excuse me. It's a fun hobby. You know what I mean? I don't know why they're so upset there. The Capitol Police seem shook by this. Here's, let's see, what do they say? Any other details? The suspect, 35-year-old Phelan Tam Dewey Law of Julian, California, was arrested for carrying a dangerous weapon for being in possession of a guillotine. Who knew? Who knew? Do the feds issue guillotine licenses? You know what I mean? It's just so ridiculous. But yeah, they busted that guy. And here's a follow-up report. The California man who was arrested with a guillotine outside the U.S. Capitol was angry about politics. His brother confirms he doesn't like Donald Trump.
And we're learning new details about the California man at the center of an unusual arrest near the U.S. Capitol. The 35-year-old man from Julian, about 60 miles northeast of San Diego, was arrested yesterday when police officers say they spotted a guillotine in the bed of his pickup truck. Capitol Police say he drove from California to D.C., but they don't know why. Police say the truck containing the device was illegally parked east of the Capitol grounds. The driver was arrested accused of carrying a dangerous weapon.
Well, that was ABC News reporting, so I'm not surprised they forgot to report this part of the story. His brother actually confirmed to the Los Angeles Times that the guillotine was a symbol of his disapproval of politics. His brother even confirmed that he was unhappy with politics and disliked President Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom. No one can blame him here.
There you go. He dislikes them both, Trump and Newsom. But apparently, you can't drive around D.C. with a guillotine in the back of your truck. The Capitol Police are going to find that, take that seriously. Carrying a dangerous weapon for being in possession of the guillotine. What did this guy think? You know what I mean? You're going to pull up, grab Trump, and chop his head off? It's ridiculous. He has how many armed guards? You know what I mean? AZ on the Rumble says Dems won't be any better. Of course they won't. The government, the entire government, Republicans and Democrats, are organized crime syndicate. Of course they're not going to be any better. Republicans may, at some very tiny paper-thin level, be better. You know what I mean? We're not seeing any action, so what the hell's the point? It's all the government. Government wins every election. Facts, man. Facts. Okay, so they're out to get me, says Greg Bavino. This dude, remember him? When they were doing the ops, trying to stir up a bunch of, and still we're not getting mass deportations. They shot some Americans. ICE did, right? They did a couple roundups, but nothing like we need. Nothing like we need. We've heard Mr. Technocracy J.D. Vance say there's 50 million illegal aliens in this country. Bavino saying there's 100 million illegal aliens in this country. Is there that many? That seems like a very high number. Greg Bovino told Tucker Carlson in a recent interview that he believes the Trump administration is threatening his life after he was fired from his role leading Border Patrol. Now they're out to get Bovino. He did what you guys wanted, man. So see, another example here, right? Well, you don't work for the government, bro, because they don't give a damn about you. They'll turn on you in a second. They'll throw you on the bus. They'll whack you, set you up, and everything else. They're the most dirty criminal. We're the global hegemon, the number one criminal organization in the world. Your and my U.S. federal government. In his interview with Tucker released yesterday, Greg Bovino accused Border Czar Tom Homan and the Border Patrol Commissioner Rodney Scott of pulling his protection while insisting President Trump would be shocked by the details. He estimated over 100 million illegal aliens in the United States and called mass deportation stalled theater due to lacking will. The White House dismissed the security claims as absurd, and his population figure drew pushback as an unsourced extrapolation far above estimates like 15.8 million from the Migration Policy Institute. I think we've heard Holman say 40 million. I know we heard JD Vance say 50. Now this guy 100 seems like that seems a bit much. Maybe it is 100. Who knows? We're definitely not getting mass deportation, so we know that much. As promised by Trump. Promises made, promises broken by Trump. Thank you very much. ICE arrest Aardvarkland National Avi Shea Alon in New Hampshire. On August 20th, an arrest following routine enforcement operations and came after Alon served part of a 2 to 6 year state prison sentence for a September 2024 incident in Dover, where he and a co-defendant held a man at gunpoint. Alon and a former Aardvarkland military intelligence member who later worked in tech, identifies as a transgender woman named Allison and has pursued prison-related lawsuits. The ICE announcement featuring Alon's mugshot prompted online reactions ranging from calls for swift deportation to comments on the suspect's appearance, highlighting public focus on immigration enforcement against those with criminal records. And then here he is. I don't even get well, it's created by the media, right? They're if you're here in this country illegally, you're breaking our immigration laws. That's a crime. But they act like, oh, you can break in the country, and then as long as you don't commit any other crimes, then you're cool. It's not cool. We have immigration laws for a reason, and they need to be enforced, and all these illegal aliens need to be deported the hell out of here. Obviously, that's not going to happen because Trump and his cronies are profiting off of illegal immigration in this country. Sorry to report to you, MAGA. Judge approves $73.5 million settlement between Epstein victims and Bank of America. A federal judge in Manhattan earlier today approved a $72.5 million class action lawsuit reached between victims reached between Jeffrey Epstein victims and Bank of America. Manhattan federal court judge Jed Rankoff greenlit the agreement at an hour-long conference hailing the outcome as a significant step toward accountability while acknowledging nothing would ever undo the pain caused to Epstein's victims. And Bank of America laughs. What? No, they knew nothing, right? And nobody, banking executives never get in trouble. They just simply pay a fine, right? Too big to jail, too big to fail, too big to jail in every case, apparently. No amount of money can ever fully compensate Epstein victims for the harm they've suffered, the judge said. Amid endless reporting about the need for those who facilitated Epstein's abuse to be brought to justice, the judge said there are cases, including very much this one, where that hasn't been talk, it's reality. It is thanks to plaintiffs' counsel that a substantial number of Epstein victims are receiving substantial amounts of money, and that some, at least modest justice, is thereby being accommodated, the judge said. Anything else about that? Yeah, I think we know the rest of the details there. Similar settlements were reached in actions brought against JP Morgan Chase, which shelled out $290 million to at least 100 Epstein victims in June 2023, and Deutsche Bank, which settled for $75 million in 2023. But still no criminal. Just pay a fine, and you're the good bankers that we all know and love. It's just more bankers tied up with Epstein here. Former JP Morgan executive Stanley says he shared confidential bank information with Epstein. Report out of Reuters. Former JP Morgan executive Jess Staley told U.S. lawmakers he repeatedly shared confidential and market-sensitive bank information with Jeffrey Epstein and was at one point named as a trustee of his estate, according to a transcript released by the House Oversight Committee. These admissions come as lawmakers probe the late convicted Epstein's political and business ties. Staley appeared before the House Oversight Committee and Government Reform last month as part of its investigation into Epstein and his associate Maxwell. In the closed-door voluntary interview conducted July 24th, Staley said he divulged to Epstein the bank's communications with the Federal Reserve during the 2008 financial crisis, a figure of $44 billion in private bank inflows over 2 weeks, his own compensation, and details of pending deals. Staley also admitted to sharing other confidential information about JP Morgan with Epstein, according to the transcript. Lawmakers also questioned him about communications in which he discussed matters including his compensation, client relations, and developments related to his eventual move to Barclays. Staley defended the exchanges, saying he believed he had the authority to share information when he considered it appropriate. He has maintained he had a close professional relationship with Epstein, but was unaware of his crimes. He knew nothing. He knew nothing, you see. JP Morgan declined to comment. Yeah, he knew nothing. Nobody, Bill Gates knew nothing. Nobody knew nothing. You see, Epstein's assistant of 18 years, she knew nothing. Nobody knows nothing here. Here's a report out of, what is this, NBC Channel 7, local news. A gigantic mistake. Bill Gates addresses Epstein relationship. I think this is Bill Gates' interview with Anderson Cooper. we can get this sucker to load here. Here we go. Everybody's favorite doctor during the bad times, Bill Gates, saved the world many times over.
I do want to ask you about Jeffrey Epstein. This is your first television appearance since your closed-door interview before the House Oversight Committee, which is investigating Epstein's crimes. What was the extent of your relationship with Epstein? Did you ever interact with any of his victims?
Yeah, I really appreciated the opportunity to go in and answer every question that day. And that's all public. People are curious. I encourage them to look at that. You know, I went through every single meeting, every single email. I didn't have a social relationship. I didn't meet any women through him. I had a misguided view that he could facilitate my raising philanthropic funds for global health. It was a gigantic mistake, which I talk about in my testimony, and I really learned from that. You know, I'm very apologetic that I gave him any credibility at all. And, you know, I spent today really saying, you know, what I did do and being very, very clear what I did not.
There was a series of graphic, unverified allegations against you that Epstein appears to have written himself in July of 2013 in these draft emails that were never sent. It sounded like he was trying to blackmail you. Were you aware he was trying to do that?
No. It's complicated enough that really that's where, you know, several hundred pages of testimony gets to it. And, you know, I didn't know that he was considering blackmailing me. He never did blackmail me, but, you know, it just shows how foolish I was to spend time with him.
Bill, thanks so much for your time.
Well, I totally believe Bill Gates, right? I mean, don't you? The Gates Foundation investigated the 30-plus meetings between Bill and Epstein, and they found no wrongdoing. Here's Massey to wrap up Epstein reporting today.
And finally, I know the DOJ wants to say they're done with this document production. The problem is they've taken down documents before we were able to go over to the DOJ and look at the unredacted versions. They took down some of the most significant documents, two of them involving Virginia Giuffre's case and other things. The picture of Epstein in a room where it's got CIA written on the boxes, that's been taken down. We want to be able to look at all these files. They can't keep those documents down after they've already produced them.
They took down Lutnick. They played that game, right? Where they release the documents, then they redact them again, then they get public pushback and pressure, then they release them again. What's the Dow today? I believe it's well above 50,000, right? Let's check the Dow. Can we finally go after Epstein co-conspirators? Yeah, the Dow's well above 50,000, 53, almost at 53,574. So clear path for DOJ to go after Epstein co-conspirators, a la Pam Bondi's outburst earlier in the year. All right, friends, let's take that live commercial break now. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All that's free. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker there. You can see nice holograph going on there. We have the white background sticker as well, and the clear background sticker, weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. We got baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, shot glasses. As some in the audience say, this show may induce heavy bouts of drinking. A bunch of gear over there. Go check it out. weaponizednews.com/shop. In the description below this video is the link. We take donations as well. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App links, all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack. We're streaming there live now. You'll get the full show, summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. Weaponized News Substack. It's all free. Nothing's behind the paywall. Show your support for independent reporting and analysis, brought to you 5 days a week, broadcasting live Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern time on all your big tech platforms here now. Towing the line of community guidelines, as they say on the internet here now. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All that is free. All the links are in the description below this video. All right, welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this August 27th, 2026, Thursday edition. Thank you for joining us. We're back here now. What do we got? The executive order. If you cared, here it is. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But here's Trump's executive order renaming Lake Ontario as Lake of America. There it all is right there. Yeah, all that's fine and dandy, but can't afford groceries out here, bro. And you're putting on you're staging up some fake fight with Canada. Howard Lutnick, excuse me, Epstein's neighbor. He was he's pumping some more frauds today.
In the Delta Group, 2 experts to spend time and effort to analyze these buildings. And what they came back with is there's $257 million would be enough money to completely renovate and restore the building if President Trump was the construction manager. If he agreed to do it, we could get this done.
He's getting heckled. Can you hear that in the background? It's kind of hard to hear. We have another clip of it. He's getting heckled. Woman repeatedly screaming shame and lies nonstop at Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. See if we can hear it a little better here. And this is everywhere he goes in all of public, everyone should be screaming shame and liar at his face because he is a shameful liar. And truly disgusting that Howard Lutnick is the friggin' Commerce Secretary.
Center, the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts should be the greatest cultural institution in the United States of America and possibly the world.
Lies,
and
lies,
the president
shame.
wants to do that, right? But it's not there now.
You could hear that a little bit in the background, right? That should be what everyone does everywhere for this freaking criminal. Mark Carney has made a statement here now. Banker, puppet, Prime Minister of Canada. The new Lake Ontario comes from the Wendat word Ontario, which appropriately means the lake is beautiful, the lake is big. The name is more than 400 years old, predating both the Confederation of Canada and the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. We know that America is changing their trade relationships, their foreign policies, their national monuments, their hydron dams, hydronums. Canadians also know that naming reality means calling it Lake Ontario then, now, and always. Trump administration is negotiating with Venezuela's interim government for a U.S. stake in more than a dozen oil fields holding an estimated 90 billion barrels of oil, according to Aardvark mouthpiece puppet fake news Axios. Officials say the deal could more than double U.S. proven oil reserves in Venezuela. Private companies, including American firms, would redevelop Venezuela's aging infrastructure and direct more oil revenue to Caracas. Trump was reportedly considering U.S. ownership of Venezuelan oil fields before authorizing the January 3rd kidnapping of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Talks now are being led by little Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and acting Venezuelan President Delcy Rodriguez, with Nazi Stephen Miller also involved. The Iran and Ukraine wars, raising oil prices, and a 40-year low in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve are adding urgency, the official added to Axios. Energy Secretary Chris Wright may travel to Venezuela next week, but no timetable for finalizing the agreement has been set. NVIDIA, we reported on yesterday, kept our economy from crashing essentially with their earnings report. That's literally how bad it is. NVIDIA beat Wall Street expectations yesterday, reporting $96.2 billion in quarterly revenue, but the $5 trillion company faced mounting scrutiny over deals that critics describe as circular financing. It is the snake's biting its tail here, according to the Financial Times, because it is the circle jerk of AI computer chips up everybody's rear end fraud, because that's what they like, the butt stuff, the freak shows that these big techs are, right? The tech bros. The chip maker has used its balance sheet to help customers fund AI infrastructure, including partial guarantees on $500 billion in chip financing and $100 billion plus backstop for an OpenAI data center in Ohio. NVIDIA is also a major investor in AI labs, OpenAI, and Anthropic. Finance chief Colette Kress acknowledged some will call this circular financing, but said the risks were limited given strong demand, noting that demand it is backing with its own balance sheet would make up roughly a quarter of next year's business. Morgan Stanley analysts had pressed for more transparency, warning NVIDIA is exposed if the AI boom disappoints. Well, that's just hateful against scientific dictatorship technocracy, right? Sure it is. Trump's pumping NVIDIA because that's what they're doing. They're building the greater North America. Here it is. Maybe someday people will catch on. Probably not.
That is why President Trump has drawn a new strategic map from Greenland to the Gulf of America to the Panama Canal and its surrounding countries. At the Department of War, we call this strategic map the Greater North America.
That's what they're building out right now, the technate, the scientific dictatorship technocracy. Here's what Trump said. Trump knows that this is all fraud. NVIDIA just announced record sales of $96.2 billion, forecasting a 70% rise in revenue in 2028. Congratulations to Jensen Huang on these incredible numbers and the company's great success. Only in America could the fraud be this large. NVIDIA will start an employee-funded U.S. political action committee. Well, hell yeah, buy off Congress. Everybody else does. Might as well. You know what I mean? They're like, we'll give you everything for free. Just get rid of these damn Americans. You know what I mean? Put them in the FEMA camps. Put the chips in them. Terminate them. There is, quote, no plan for the social, political, and economic upheaval AI is about to cause, Bill Gates said. I think we talked about that yesterday a little bit. Bill Gates, our doctor, warning, our former doctor, warning about the dangers of AI. Open AI. So here is your technocracy, your Skynet, your scientific dictatorship. Maybe not all, but these are the major players. OpenAI said earlier today, we have a limited window to strengthen cyber defenses, and together with organizations including Anthropic, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Oracle, we're calling for a global effort to give defenders the tools, resources, and support to protect the infrastructure we all depend on. If we act decisively, we can turn today's AI advances into lasting improvements in security and make our digital world safer for everyone. See, they care about us. They care about us. Here is your corporate fascist government. By the way, many members. The Trump administration has approved 2 new data center chemicals to which exposure could result in, quote, sudden death. Yeah, what the hell? The miracles are still on the market. You know what I mean? Sounds like Maha to me. And a range of other serious health risks like cancer, eye coercion, neurological damage, and reproductive harm, according to a new lawsuit. Yeah, who cares about a little brain damage? You got TDS out there? Report out of UK Guardian. Groups sue Trump's EPA over fast-tracked approval of toxic data center chemicals. Exposure to 2 compounds approved can result in sudden death and a range of other serious health risks. Are you a conspiracy theorist? UK Guardian, you know what I mean? The Trump administration has approved 2 new data center chemicals. The 2 compounds approved by the EPA for import and immediate use in facilities across the United States are photoacid generators that also appear to be PFAS, forever chemicals, though it is unclear because much of the EPA documents are redacted. Some forever chemicals are commonly used in the production of semiconductors. The EPA acknowledged in its approvals that it does not know the level at which the chemicals are acutely lethal or cause other serious health damage, but the agency still approved them anyway. Said Jonathan Muscat, an attorney with the Earth Justice nonprofit, which filed the suit. Yeah, sounds about right to me there. All right, continuing. If you feel like your wages aren't keeping up, that's because they're not. That's because they're not. Corporate profits have grown 4 times faster than wages. Groundwork Collaborative. You can see right there. Corporate profits up 52+%, while wages grow 12%. Great news. More technocracy news here. Trump loves the technocracy. Great news. Micron, one of the hottest companies in the world, just announced a massive $10 billion investment in a new research labs right here in America. They are keeping us at the absolute forefront of AI and advanced computing. I made it clear that America will lead the way to a new golden age of science. The results speak for themselves. During my administration, companies are investing trillions of dollars into scientific dictatorship technocracy, the technate, the greater North America. Let's see here. 41% of Americans say they were concerned about being able to afford groceries after the next few months, up from 24% in April, according to a report out of ABC. Yeah, who cares if you can afford to eat? You got some new forever chemicals in your local data center. That's really all you need. And by the way, you can get $50 off Ozempic at trumprx.gov. So don't you worry about eating out there, America. The president's son, paid by Kalashi and Polymarket, and he's telling elected officials not to go after those companies. More insider trading, pay for play, and protection racket out of the Trump administration. Here you go. Exclusive. Donald Trump Jr. tells Republican state attorneys general to back off on prediction markets. It's a protection racket. They're criminals. Trump's oil and gas stock trades continued during the Iran war filing show. ZBS News says in this report, Trump's investment accounts have continued to purchase and sell holdings in oil and natural gas companies while he oversees the U.S. war with Iran, according to his financial disclosure filings through the second quarter of this year. Trump's investment account sold between $500,000 and $1 million of Exxon stock on April 7th, the same day he announced a ceasefire in the Iran war, and hours before Exxon opened 6.5% lower, according to ZBS report there. Trump's June financial filings show the sale happened the same day he announced the ceasefire. Exxon closed at $163.91 on April 7th before Trump announced the ceasefire that evening, and opened at $153.52 the following morning, a 6.5% drop. Donald Trump is profiting from the very wars he started. Indeed. JP Morgan warns a large-scale global food crisis could hit within the next year, forecasting global food inflation to nearly double from 2.8 to 5%. So I put it about a lot higher than that. Let's triple it, 15, quadruple it, put it at 20%. And I believe that's even still conservative here now. And that's, they say food inflation, we'll see food inflation at 5% by early 2027. Yeah, it's going to be a lot higher than that. The direct driver is fertilizer. 1/3 of the world's nitrogen fertilizer moves through the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran has kept shut since February, the end of February 28th, when the war kicked off. Unlike oil, there's a strategic reserve for fertilizer and nothing to release. Nitrogen fertilizer goes into about half of all crops grown globally. As we continue to report, they engineered a global energy crisis to engineer a global famine, causing millions in the third and fourth world to starve to death and tens of millions to go into further poverty. And we already are currently feeling the effects here on American grocery prices. All right, on to AAA national average for the cost of for the price of a gallon of gasoline. We're at $4.10. You can see right there, if we round up, $4.10 on average across America, well above the $4 threshold. Now, the Brown University Iran War Energy Cost Tracker. Again, the Iran War started by Trump on February 28, 2026. We're now at $92.6 billion total consumer cost burden since the beginning of the Iran War. You can see it right here. And then the per U.S. household cost burden spread across both gasoline and diesel is now up to $707.21. You can see right there. Man, we're taking a beating here economically, that's for sure. You and I, Joe Blow consumer, just trying to live, for crying out loud. U.S. Navy, U.S. Central Command chimes in here now. They say U.S. Navy EA-18G electronic warfare aircraft patrol the skies over the Middle East while the U.S. continues to enforce the blockade against Iran. As of today, CENTCOM forces have redirected 750 commercial vessels, disabled 3, and boarded 2 to ensure compliance. So again, as it says in the Constitution, our job is to be police of the Strait of Hormuz now. Of course, it doesn't say that. This is all illegal under the Constitution. Who cares? You know what I mean? Have fun paying for groceries. Tanker Trackers says shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz averaged just 3.7 million barrels of oil per day over the past 7 days based on vessels' automatic identification system signals after they have passed through the U.S. blockade line. Yeah, not much traffic there. Let's see here. Tank trackers count ships to the global market when they pass through the U.S. blockade, monitoring the automatic identification system signals of ships because of restrictions on timely satellite imagery. Visible traffic remains heavily depressed. Kepler counted just 10 commodity vessels crossing the Strait of Hormuz yesterday compared to 10-day moving average of roughly 15, though the data is preliminary as ships may be moving with tracking signals switched off. Pre-war transits through the Strait of Hormuz averaged about 140 per day, to show you how much it's fallen there, with, again, Iran standing there with a big gun, America standing there with a big gun, pointing at whoever wants to drive by. Maybe you pay some protection money, maybe you don't, maybe you get shot, maybe you don't. That's kind of where we're at here. It's a very sketchy situation, to say the least. Tragedy. This hit yesterday. You guys probably saw it, but some of these images are striking. Tragedy hit Nepal. Death toll rises to 270 in Nepal. Tibet flood. Over 1,000 still missing. More than 5,000 rescuers are searching devastated Himalayan valleys as the death toll is expected to climb. I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday, but some of the images here, this is pretty wild. Chinese media reportedly said a sudden flood hit the Tibet's Kureg County. Check out this video. audio. That whistling is getting annoying. Sorry about that. Wowzers. Yeah, wiping out everything in the path there. Some more video from yesterday at the, let's see. This is striking. You can see the dam collapse here. Great shot. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be worried about getting this shot or getting the hell out of there as fast as I can, but great shot here. Take a look at this. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I think we had a couple more clips. This one, take a look at this clip. Just wipes out everything, man. No audio here. It's coming. It's coming. Wowzers. Wiped out all of those buses, that whole, everything there. Crazy. And I think we have one more. Let's see. Graphic warning. This is out of Reuters. It is pretty damn graphic. Check out this. Made in China, they say. Deadly mudslides devastate. Yeah. Wowzers. We saw that image already. Yeah, that's about it. Tragic events there in Nepal. Yemen's Ansarallah fired ballistic missiles at Saudi Arabia, Moha port yesterday, with at least 3 missiles striking the port area and a 4th landing toward an Al-Barha intersection. According to reporting out of Al Jazeera, at least 5 additional missiles struck the Al-Qaha area. There were no immediate reports of casualties or the extent of the damage. As there's reports today, Saudi Arabia is preparing for a full-on war with the Houthis there in Yemen. They're already at war, but I guess it's going to just, I don't know, full mobilization. I don't know what they're going to do. A ground invasion. They're already shooting missiles at each other, bombing the hell out of each other. I guess the next step's ground invasion. I don't know what they're going to do. They're talking about upping it, though. So look for more war there. Yemen said earlier today, we warn insurance companies not to be deceived by the Saudi regime's illusionary guarantees. Yemen's foreign ministry says the Saudi regime is mobilizing its followers and mercenaries in an attempt to harm Yemen and destroy its social cohesion. Saudi Arabia's blockade of Yemen's airports and ports and its seizure of our country's national wealth are intended to exhaust Yemen and impoverish its people. These criminal Saudi actions are now returning to the kingdom in the form of severe economic consequences and the blockade of its own ports. We warn insurance companies not to be deceived by the Saudi regime's illusionary guarantees or become trapped in its quagmire. The effort to reclaim Yemen's national rights is now a religious responsibility and a popular demand and a national necessity for Yemenis. Some strong rhetoric there, as per usual, coming out of the Houthis. On to the reform now. Fine-looking young man, according to Trump, al-Shara. They're back in the game, bro, in Syria. They're back in the Western banking system. The sanctions have been removed. They're no longer, what are they, international terrorists. They're the good guys now, bro. Because former Al-Qaeda head, al-Shara, is the president. He's a reformed, fine, upstanding young citizen now. Visa and MasterCard processed their first international card transactions in Syria yesterday, just days after Washington removed Syria from its list of state sponsors of terrorism. They're back in the game there, bro. In Syria. Look at that. You're back in the fiat debt-based monetary system. Rad, dude. No, but there's a giant pain in the ass. It's like, it's horrible if you're cut off from it. So it's like you're damned if you do, and you're economically dead if you don't. Segue. Meanwhile, ICC judges are getting sanctioned, right? Crazy. They sanctioned this judge, remember? The ICC. Yeah, but former Al-Qaeda, ISIS head terrorist in Syria, now president. He's cool with it. Aardvark land forces are conducting operations near Damascus tonight. This was reported by the Clash report a few hours ago. I thought, oh, now they're attacking Syria, shelling the areas between the town of Bitchute and the Red Hills in western rural Damascus. So I guess you get to use your credit card, and Aardvark land gets to steal your land there, bro. So I don't know how that's going to sort out for them. Reports describe it as a night of revenge by the Aardvark land occupation, with house-to-house raids also reported in the village of Rasim al-Ajaraf in southern Syria, rural Qantara. Syrian sources describe the Aardvark land occupation or operations as beyond description in their intensity. The SDF just dissolved. Here's what that means for Syria. Clash report.
This is Clash Report reporting from Al Ashrafiyya neighborhood of Aleppo. Yesterday, the commander of SDF, Mazlum Abdi, just announced the dissolution of the forces, and we are on the ground a day after that historical announcement. For over a decade, this region governed itself. Its own schools, its own courts, its own military. A state within a state. Then Assad fell in December 2024. 50 years of family rule gone in 11 days. A new government formed under Ahmed al-Shara. January this year, Damascus launches an offensive on the SDF. 80% of their territory gone in 2 weeks. Raqqa, Deir ez-Zor handed over. Arab units inside the SDF defects. What's left is 3 pockets along the Turkish border. Hasaka, Kamışlı and Kobani. So this week, SDF commander Mazlum Abdi walks into the presidential palace in Damascus and announces that the SDF is dissolved. 12,000 fighters absorbed into the Syrian army. Former SDF commanders now lead government brigades. Kurdish recognized as an official national language. One country, one army. That was always the deal.
They're consolidating forces there in Syria. Let's see what Turkey and Syria have to say about this latest attack by aardvarks. Butcher of Bosnia, Ratko Mladic, architect of the Serbian genocide, is dead today at the age of 83. He died in The Hague. He was convicted of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. So I'm sure he'll be burning in hell. Can we get an image? This dude. What the hell? This dude right here. I'm sure he's burning in hell. No longer with us at the age of 83. U.S. Southern Command says taking the fight to the areas that need it most. In Tumaco, Colombia, Southcom Commander General Francis Donovan and Minister of Defense George Eduardo Mora, and they list all these dudes. They say that troops who are combating and dismantling narco-terrorist networks in the Southern Pacific region, the America's Counter Cartel Coalition is taking concrete actions to defeat cartels and narco-terrorists that threaten safety and sovereignty across the Western Hemisphere. And here they are, consolidating drug operations. Iran's commando strengthens partnerships across the Western Hemisphere, bringing special operations forces together to compete, learn, and build. Training and competition today strengthen our ability to confront shared challenges together. 17 nations won competition. Forenza's Commando 2026. Some more. There's constantly running drills, raids. Where basically there is a war going on in Mexico, Central and South America against these alleged cartels. I like that logo with a jaguar on there. Let's see here. There you go. Paraguay 2026 Commando Games. Digging that jaguar. All right. So that's ongoing. It's like very underreported, but you just go to U.S. Southern Command. You can see There's a giant drug war going on. Let's see here. Department of War announced today, if our bases can't power themselves, our military can't project American power, Project Janus drops up to 20 micro reactors onto U.S. Army bases with a simple common sense rule: no energy delivered, no taxpayer dollars paid. Project Janus ensures our warfighters have the reliable, unbeatable power they need to fight, win, and dominate. Project Janus, announced by the U.S. Army yesterday. Army reaches agreement with private industry for nuclear micro reactors. The Department of the Army is announcing today that the Janus program has selected 5 nuclear energy vendors for 5 initial locations in partnership with the Department of War Innovation Unit. The Army is awarding up to combined $2.2 billion to own, construct, and operate nuclear microreactors on military installations. These vendors will deliver safe, secure, and reliable nuclear power, strengthening the Army's ability to project power globally. Didn't they just tell us in the last thing it was we're not going to cost anything? Anyhow, while supporting the revitalization of American industrial capacity and technological leadership, with the private sector funding expected along with these government dollars, the Army expects more than 20 total nuclear micro reactors will be built and operated across the Department of War installations. And here are those 5 vendors. Antrace Nuclear, BWXT Advanced Technologies, General Atomics, Electromagnetic Systems, Radiant Industries Inc., and Westinghouse Government Services. That's a nice name to name your company, Westinghouse Government Services. Oh, man. But didn't they say, call me crazy, but didn't they say right here, they say, let's go back to the initial post by the Department of War. They say Project Janus drops up to 20 micronuclear reactors onto U.S. Army bases with a simple common sense rule: no energy delivered, no taxpayer dollars paid. They're paying them $2.2 billion. That's right here. Some classic doublespeak coming out of the Department of War there, as you can see. Colin Powell's former chief of staff, Lawrence Wilkinson, says we lied about Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, and Libya. Let's watch this. Shocking admission. Not really. We know you're lying criminals, but let's hear it from the rat's mouth here.
We lied about Vietnam. We lied about Iraq. We lied about Afghanistan. We lied about Somalia. We lied about Libya. We put more small arms and medium arms into the hands of terrorist groups the world over by not securing Gaddafi's weapons caches in Libya than any arms merchant has ever put into the world. Did the same thing in Iraq. We failed to secure Saddam Hussein's arm caches. We didn't have enough troops to do it, so we just left them for Al-Qaeda and ISIS and others to have their will.
Well, we just left them for our terrorist proxy armies. How convenient. On to Russia, Ukraine. More about CIA Director Ratcliffe's trip there. This is a report out of the failing New York Times. They say Ratcliffe told Bortkinov, that's the equivalent, Russia equivalent to him, that Russia had gained only about 1% of Ukrainian territory in 18 months, that the life expectancy of a Russian soldier on the front lines is less than 35 minutes, and that Ukraine's, quote, mastery of drone technology is imposing unsustainable costs. He made no threats about consequences if Putin refuses to negotiate. Before the trip, Radcliffe assured Ukrainian counterparts he would explore Russian positions, not make concessions on their behalf. The visit contradicts Trump's own characterization of the trip as standard business with no message. The failing New York Times reports it was a difficult effort to bypass normal diplomatic channels, with officials hoping Putin, a former intelligence officer himself, would find a CIA director's assessment more credible than messages from envoys Witkoff and Kushner, whom Ukrainians view as too close to Moscow. Trump says Putin is not going to be attacking a NATO territory.
Has Putin agreed or committed to not attacking a NATO territory?
I've had good talks with him. He's not going to be attacking a NATO territory.
I don't know about that. NATO 3.0, the Europe Force Posture Review and the transition to NATO 3.0. The Pentagon's European Force Posture Review marks an important milestone in NATO's transition toward a more European-led model of conventional defense. The review, expected to take approximately 6 months and conducted in consultation with NATO allies and Congress, will assess the future of U.S. forces and capabilities assigned to Europe, announced Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. The effort will be led by Undersecretary of the Department of War for Policy, Elbridge Colby, to review. The review is intended to accelerate NATO's transition toward a model in which Europeans assume primary responsibility for conventional defense. Colby has described this version as, quote, NATO 3.0, an alliance in which Europe provides most conventional military capabilities, while the United States acts as a principal nuclear guarantor and strategic backstop. The central question is whether Europe can generate sufficient military capability to deter and, if necessary, defeat Russian aggression as the United States' conventional contribution declines. And here's Undersecretary, the heck is his whole title again? Elbridge Colby. And what the heck is he? Undersecretary for... Now I lost what the heck he even is. Anyway, he's Navy Undersecretary. This dude. For policy, excuse me.
I think President Trump deserves tremendous credit, no question. But it's also something that the Germans themselves are seeing as in their interest and seeing as something that's reasonable. How is it reasonable for the American people to be spending 3.54% of GDP on defense and being able to project power for all our benefit, and the German people to be spending 1%? At some point, that just doesn't make sense anymore. We're beyond that. That's one of the key things.
NATO 3.0 coming to fruition here. They're going to do a 6-month review and telling Europe, pay your share. Trump has long said that. Yeah, they go through all the nitty-gritty details here. It's a bit much. I'll spare you. out of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Yeah, I'll spare you all the nitty gritty, boring details there, but essentially, launching NATO 3.0 today, the review of it. Here's Root, head of NATO.
We discussed the absolute need for Europe to step up, and Canada to step up in NATO, and to have a more honest and a more equitable sharing of what you're doing within NATO with the United States. You coined the phrase NATO 3.0. And that's basically what we're now all using, because it was very well put. It is a stronger Europe and a stronger Canada in a stronger NATO. And when it comes to the leadership positions within NATO, the same is happening. And then we had a visit in June of Secretary Hexet, and he said, hey, listen, we constantly...
We're in a freaking trade war with Canada right now. Like, dude. Again, our foreign policy is schizophrenic. Here's old Colby.
We really want to stress here, and again, thanks to President Trump, thanks to Secretary General Rutte, how extraordinary this progress has been, and then to build in this review, as the Secretary Hegseth has called it, the NATO 3.0
Rutte. That's how I'm going to pronounce it, Rutte.
Review, to advance and accelerate what's happening. And then to look at the strategic posture at a high level of the U.S. forces in Europe, obviously Europe remaining a critical interest.
Colby's very excited. He's pretty wired up there, you know what I mean? NATO 3.0. All right, on to Russia-Ukraine now. Russia's running out of cash to sustain its wartime spending, forcing the government into austerity measures after an April liquidity crisis left the federal treasury with a negative $5.5 trillion ruble, or $65.3 billion balance in the red. Since then, Moscow has cut non-war spending by 35%, ordered agencies to prepare for 15% staff reductions, and postpone non-essential expenditures, according to a report out of Bloomberg. Russia warns British military sites could become targets over Ukrainian strikes. Russia may begin striking British military facilities and equipment in Ukraine and beyond if Kiev continues to use UK-supplied weapons to attack Russian territory. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova warned earlier today. She said, we have repeatedly warned, and we reported it here, that the response to Ukraine strikes using British weapons against Russian territory could be directed against any British military facility and equipment in Ukraine and beyond. Her warning came a day after Ukrainian forces used British-French Storm Shadow Sclap missiles to bomb the Russian-controlled city of Donetsk in eastern Ukraine, wounding at least 8 civilians, including 2 children. She stated that the parties responsible for attacks on Russian civilians will be punished. She urged all residents of the United Kingdom to think about the inevitable catastrophic consequences of hostile steps taken by their own authorities. She called on UK officials to immediately, decisively, and unequivocally abandon their aggressive policies that could raise the conflict to a fundamentally new level. She went on to say the UK is involved in a long-term project to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. Yeah. We'll see. Russia has been threatening this for a minute now, right? For about a month. But they've always said that through this whole war. When we keep saying it, right? But if UK, NATO, America, you give your proxy Ukraine long range strike capability and they use it, we're going to take it as if you are the ones doing it and just cut out the proxy middleman, right? So they keep saying it. We'll see. The war needs to end. That's for sure. A Russian drone guided entirely by AI killed 3 Ukrainian civilians at a gas station in Zap or Zaya on July 6th. The first documented case of civilian deaths from a fully automated autonomous Russian drone. The drone used an NVIDIA Jetson Orin mini computer costing only a few $100s, programmed to recognize and strike propane tanks. It had no antennas or human pilot. Ukrainian investigators found unencrypted terrain images and targeting code on the chip. According to the failing New York Times, here's one of these autonomous Russian kill drones. There's the alleged chip. Thanks a lot, NVIDIA. So now we've had two reports, one out of going from Ukraine to Russia, now Russia to Ukraine, that drones, AI autonomous drones, literally making their own decisions, have killed people on both sides of this war. We're getting close to Skynet here now. Striking images out of Ukraine. Russia's bombing the hell out of them. They've been bombing the hell out of Russia. Russia strikes Kiev and Odessa regions, key ports and military industries targeted, according to Russian Department of War. 7 military storage facilities in Odessa destroyed. Robotics manufacturing hub near Velkaya destroyed. UAV logistics center in Bovary destroyed. It's horrific. We need this war to end. And it looks like it's only escalating here now, with UK pumping long-range strikes against Russia. Continuing here, the leveling, demolition of southern Lebanon. Summary of aardvark land attacks and violations of southern Lebanon since dawn over there. I won't read you the times. I'll just read you through all these different reports of attacks. Intense shelling was reported in Ali al-Tahir area. 2 tanks and several other aardvark land military vehicles advanced toward the outskirts of Kafar Shabah. Aardvark land forces reportedly raised a flag and conducted machine gun fire in the area, artillery shelling in the outskirts of May Fadoun. Artillery shelling targeted Montessori, while Aardvark land military vehicles carried out bulldozing operations in Montessori Bayat al-Said area. Artillery shelling targeted the Wandi al-Hujayr area. Artillery shelling targeted alongside machine gun fire on western outskirts of Mays al-Jabal. A fire broke out in the area between Kanin and Anita after an artillery shelling was fired toward the area. A drone dropped a sound bomb over Kfar Rumalm. Aardvark land forces, accompanied by tanks and military bulldozers, moved through the western outskirts of Mays al-Jabil. The movement coincided with artillery shelling targeting several homes, while Aardvark land forces set fire to houses and bulldozed agricultural tents. A truck carrying explosives also arrived in the area in preparation for a planned demolition, controlled demolition on the western outskirts of Mays al-Jabil. There's some images of all that action. Gee, man, they're taking out the whole place, man. That's a report out of the Cradle. Jeez Louise, man. Here's a report from war correspondent on the ground there, Courtney Banul.
Hi, I'm reporting to you from the town of Kfar Shuba, which lies partially in the illegal Israeli occupation zone in southern Lebanon. A few minutes ago, we were taking some footage and we heard the Israeli Air Force fly over us. It turns out that they just struck the city center of Arab Salem. They were also here this morning. 2 Merkava tanks entered Kfar Shuba. There's the Air Force again. 2 Merkava tanks entered, and according to local residents, they opened fire on the town around 5 a.m., and they also erected this Israeli flag on top of the hill in Kfar Shuba. And speaking to local residents today, they mentioned that they feel like they live in a prison and that their movement is severely restricted by the Israeli army. They live under curfews and constant fear of being targeted, killed, or abducted. Abductions have become an unfortunate reality here. Most recently, 5 people were abducted from the Halta farm area. We also spoke to a man who was abducted about 4 weeks ago. This area, the Kfar Shuba area, is home to vast agricultural lands, including approximately 80,000 olive trees. For the last 2 harvest seasons, farmers have been restricted from farming their own lands and forced to obtain permits from the Israeli army. I spoke earlier to the mayor of Kfar Shuba, and we talked about how the Israeli army is proposing to cut this area up into sections and permanently forcing Lebanese residents to apply to farm their own land, much like they do in the West Bank. And there's the Air Force again.
Yeah, racketeering, obviously. They're taking all that land. More videos of artillery shellings. It's just never ending, you know. It's also tragic. Man, more attacks here. Let's see. The Cradle, they say in just the past hour. So this is a big attack here. They say two airstrikes by, and this is, we'll say within the last 24 hours, but all these attacks within an hour time frame. 2 airstrikes by warplanes on Arab Salim. 1 airstrike by warplanes on Nabatha al-Faqwa. 2 drone strikes on Nabatha al-Faqwa. 1 drone strike on Nabatha and Kfar Rumalm. 1 drone strike on Kfar Rumalm. Artillery shelling targeted Montessori. Artillery shelling targeting towns of Hadatha and Harris. Aardvark land warplanes killed Saja Sahara in Arab Salim 2 days after her wedding. And we have this tragic death here. 2 days after her wedding, they killed her. She's a Lebanese woman. In that attack, she was killed. 6 others were wounded, including a child, in an airstrike on Arab Salim. Here's that strike that killed her. There it is in the distance. You can see leveled the place. And she's no longer with us. More from the airstrikes there. Massive explosions in southern Lebanon. Former Aardvark Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said, just as we have 8,200, we need to establish 9,200, not a military unit, but a state organization devoted to influence and consciousness. Basically, we need to learn from Qatar, learn what they did, and do it ourselves. So we can't allow them to tear us apart like this. They are tearing us apart. We're completely finished in this area right now. But this too has to be fixed. It has to be fixed. And it will take time. We'll stop genociding. You know what I mean? This dude, right? Stop genociding everybody. That could help. I know that's extreme position, but man, yeah, they're not going to stop. Thumbnail for today. This is a great thumbnail. They're whacking refugee children in tents flying their kites. From Camille Sharaf, this Palestinian artist, cartoonist. A striking image there. He says, Aardvarkland war criminal Gallant, their former war minister, said every launch of kites from Gaza toward the southern town is considered a terrorist act. And the specified deadline to stop them has expired. We will respond forcefully to those responsible for launching kites from Gaza, as well as to launch sites and infrastructure used. Jeez. White House designates Palestinian Action as global terrorist organization. Yesterday, the White House designated the UK activist group Palestinian Action as a specially designated global terrorist group as part of a campaign to combat what it claims is a wave of radical left terrorism across America and Europe. Aardvarkland continues to arm, train ISIS-linked gangs to serve as operational arm in Gaza. Aardvarkland is expanding its use of criminal gangs, drug dealers, and other mercenaries recruited from within Gaza to commit crimes in the enclave, creating the conditions for local massacres reminiscent of Shabra and Shatila. Aardvark paper Haaretz reported yesterday. The investigation found that armed groups now function as an operational arm of the Aardvarkland Army and the Shin Bet inside the enclave because they're the most moral in the world. Obviously, there. Aardvarkland, again, is employing criminal gangs, drug dealers, and mercenaries to destabilize Gaza from within if they haven't destabilized that enough. You see? The most moral army in the world, we're told, employing these tactics. Aardvarkland strikes kill at least 3 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip earlier today. Medics said an Aardvarkland airstrike killed 1 person near Qurra in southern Gaza, while another strike killed a man at a house in the beach refugee camp in Gaza City. Later in the day, today, another Aardvarkland airstrike targeted a motorist in Gaza City, killing 1 person. Medics said. More than 100 Palestinians killed in Gaza in the past 2 weeks. They're cranking up the genocide again there. More than 100 Palestinians were killed and more than 400 injured in Gaza in the past 2 weeks. And it all kicked off after Jared Kushner had a meeting with Malay Bibi Netanyahu. Board of peace, right? Board of genocide is what it actually is. He had that meeting, and then, as they do, they went on a big massacre spree. We're noticing a continuing trend. Every time any kind of ceasefire, peace deal, any even talks of it, they go out and do big massacres. And half-time whack peace negotiators as well. Now they've moved on to just mass murdering civilians for the hell of it, women and children. Children flying kites, refugees living in tents. Here you go. Here's these dirty Christians talking about the IDF spitting on them. I'm sure Christian Zionist Speaker of the House Mike Johnson loves it.
Soldiers are spitting too. The soldier in uniform, and this is people in uniform spitting on you. Now, what shall I say?
Many Christians in Israel say intimidation and spitting have become commonplace. Abbot Nicodemus Schnabel says he faces threats almost daily when he walks through Jerusalem.
It's a young monk. They're really spitting on me in the nighttime. In dark alleys without eyewitnesses, because they know if I attack the monk, it's not accepted. Now it's during daylight, people around, and they don't care.
We are afraid because we are alone. We are girls, nobody would help.
There will be more and more problems. No one is trying to solve these problems.
A study by Israel's Rossing Center found more than half of Christians under the age of 45 are considering leaving the country.
We don't have much hope. Our only hope is our children get better education than what we did, so they can find their future somewhere else.
Yeah. Mike Johnson loves it. Aardvarkland holds about 370 Palestinian children with detention, leaving lasting trauma. Approximately 370 Palestinian children were being held in the Aardvarkland prisons as of early August, most at Megiddo and Offer, according to a report by the Palestinian Center for Prisoner Advocacy. Palestinian organizations documented 276 children detention cases in the occupied West Bank and Jerusalem during the first half of this year. By the end of 2025, 180 children had been subjected to administrative detention, imprisoned without charge or trial. Children describe Aardvarkland forces raiding their homes at night, taking them away blindfolded and handcuffed, beating and threatening them and denying them food, water, and bathroom access during interrogation. Children have reported prolonged questioning, isolation, sleep deprivation, and threats against their families. Inside Aardvarkland prisons, they face overcrowding, insufficient food and hygiene supplies, restricted family visits, and delayed or denied medical treatment. The fate of children taken from Gaza is even less clear because Aardvarkland has not provided complete lists identifying them or their places of detention. Release does not end the imprisonment's effect. Formerly detained children report nightmares, anxiety, social withdrawal, and difficulty returning to school. Some fall behind academically or drop out entirely, while specialized rehabilitation remains far beyond what is needed. Jesus. Children behind bars in Aardvarkland held without charge or trial. Aardvarkland will not allow tens of thousands of displaced West Bank Palestinians to return home, according to Times of Aardvarkland. Government tells High Court residents of Jenin, Turlakrim, Nur Shams refugee camps will not be allowed back after being displaced during 2025 counter-terror operation. And finally, Aardvarkland Finance Minister Smotrich says that if they win the elections, they will bring 1 million more aardvarks to Negev and Galilee. The plan would also include 40 new settlements and dozens of farms, while canceling plans in Arab settlements that he says threaten Aardvarkland settlement in the region. He says, yes, Aardvarkizing. You can read it right here. Here's his post. See it right there? Today, I present you the religious Zionist plan. Wowzers. They're taking all that land and they're campaigning on it as they have an election in November coming up here. All right, let's take a look at these. Has there any been big kinetic moves against Canada or against anybody else while we've been on the air? Latest headlines out of Iran International, no sign of U.S. talks as Iran, Qatar discussed temporary Hormuz lane. Covered that. U.S. Japan discussed Strait of Hormuz, freedom of navigation. CENTCOM says Iran oil exports halted. Hormuz mines cleared. They keep saying that, but CENTCOM saying it now. Trump said it yesterday. Conflicting reports there. Iran security chief threatens U.S. economic interest if blockade continues. CIA chief pressured Russia to cut Iranian ties during secret Moscow visit. Trump says Iran is failing, seeking deal with U.S. And then final headlines here out of Al Jazeera. Iran to draft conditions to open Hormuz following mediator requests. Aardvarkland Army fires 2 shells into western Damascus suburb. We covered that. U.S. military says no Iranian port activity without approval since blockade renewal. That's all we got. Persian standoff there in the Strait of Hormuz. That's where we're at. on day 180 of the Iran war. Insanely enough, micro-nuke reactors at army bases. We're going to have to follow the development of NATO 3.0. And as per usual, Aardvark land employing criminal gangs, drug dealers, and mercenaries. What else could you want out of your greatest ally, I ask? All right, heading over to the channels here now. Let's head over to the Odysee channel. Shout out to Odysee audience there. Vol, Fat Bob, John. Shout out to you guys. Bob, have you read The Great Taking? It describes how banking class plans to take everything when there is a liquidity crisis. We know they create the crisis. Yeah. Fat Bob says that Brendan O'Connell did a show with Jeff Rentz, posted on Tube. Fascinating. Send me the link, Fat Bob. Axios is not fake news, Sam. Failing New York Times said so. Okay. They're not fake news, but they are propagandists for Aardvark land. That's for damn sure. I heard the Rentz interview with O'Connell. Gee, I hope he is right about us avoiding a depression. It seems unlikely. Any idea where to get a guillotine cheap? Apparently, you're not allowed to drive around with a guillotine in the back of your truck. The government feels threatened for some reason. I don't know why that would be. Shout out to Pink Vegas. Don't forget to get the license for it. Don't want to get stopped by police for an unlicensed guillotine. Oh, man. Yeah, John says the CIA must be eliminating competition. Has anyone else read The Great Heroin Coup? I have not read that. It detailed the U.S. efforts against the French who were competing with the CIA heroin operations in Southeast Asia. Boom. Yep. I've not read that book, but yeah. Sounds like mini reactors will fuel data centers. Maybe. Well, they will fuel the data centers on the military bases for sure. Is Colby any relation to former CIA William Colby? I don't know. I don't know there, John. Probably. Who knows? He acted hella wired up, though, at that NATO meeting, NATO 3.0 meeting. He was freaking, it's like, dude, calm down. Calm down. You got 6 months. All right, guys. Huffman says scumbaggery in his genes. I guess he is related. Huffman says he's the grandson of William Colby. There you go. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in on Weaponized News and chatting it up over there. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on X, Bitchute, Substack, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube. I think that's everybody. Kick. Again, tomorrow I won't be here. Ruckus is going to be hosting the show solo, or maybe he'll bring on a guest. I don't know, but at least Ruckus will be hosting. And because I have to do something with my kids tomorrow night. So thankfully, Ruckus is going to fill in for me, and tune in to see Ruckus here tomorrow. as fill-in host to let everybody know. All right, over to these other. Let's head over to Rumble YouTube chats, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see, Griff. You look like Malfoy's father in Harry Potter. Okay. Clean haircut. What? Are you homosexual? I don't even know you, bro. I'm from Morocco, Abdul says. Shout out to Abdul. He says, hi, I'm from Morocco. I love you, American people. So beautiful. Well, thank you for not cussing us out. If only Americans would love us. Oh, man. Shout out to Ron. He says, hi from Aardvarkland SEAL Team 13. Really? Shout out to Bardo. Smoke Tricks, yeah. Keep a Lake Erie Spooky. 2 says, shout out to 2. Shout out to JP says, Weaponized News, excellent streaming always. Well, thank you. Dims won't do any better. I agree. AZ on the Rumble. This is why I only carry this is why I only conceal carry my guillotine. Yeah, see? You got to consider these things nowadays. Gary on the YouTube says Trump sucks. Bovino deserves that and more. He literally behaved like a brown shirt, Hector says. He did. He did. He was trying to provocateur. He was very provocative, if you remember. He was provocateuring. It could have, all these operations could have went a lot smoother, but they were trying to provoke freaking violence to not have to actually carry out their duties of mass deportations. To look that way, right? Look that way, don't look at us not doing our job that we promised and you elected us to do. Look that way. I don't even know who that is. Chris says Thomas Bowers didn't kill himself. I don't even know who Thomas Bowers is. Which state are you from? I think they're talking amongst themselves. We're from California. The Gulf of Mexico will be ours soon. It's called Gulf of America. All right. Shut your mouth, crazy gray-haired nutter. I've not heard that. And F off. Well, thank you, Sandra, there, for those sentiments. Clip's too loud. Yeah, apologies for that, Terry. USA is downhill. Shout out to Pamela. And hi, I am from Palestine. I'm a Christian Arab. Well, Mike Johnson hates your guts. So, tragically enough. We're praying for peace there, man. We're praying for peace in all these wars, especially in Ukraine and Russia, because that thing's looking like it can get out of control pretty damn quick. It's already out of control, but if Russia starts attacking Ukraine or UK, then it's just going to continue. It's going to escalate. Not freaking good. Not good. Let's pray for peace in all of these insane wars. They need to end. As always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening. Again, a reminder, Ruckus will be hosting Weaponized News tomorrow, so be sure to tune in and see what he has to report to us about Weaponized News. All right, we appreciate that. Him being the fill-in host. Let's pray for peace. Let's pray for peace in all these insane wars. It's just damn evil. It's damn evil at this point. All right. As always, Have a great rest of your Thursday evening, and Ruckus will be